its budget request for 2009, fundamentally it was flat compared to 2008. And I think that was attributable to meeting with the borough administrator and the borough finance director, that the borough was in a difficult financial position. Basically, the only increases that we sought were to fund the increases in the statutory costs, the utilities, and for legal advice. And obviously, as most of the other departments did, we provided a 4% salary increase. In the 2009 material, I think, that has been provided to you, it's now on the basis of 1/3 of a mil support, which is being recommended to you for consideration. I hope that, or I should say we hope, that the historical judgment that the Borough Council has made over the last 60+ years that Madison has had a free public library, of providing the additional sums necessary for its maintenance and support, would be considered in this budget determination. So in advance, we tried to provide you some advanced materials dealing with an issue that I think has prompted a lot of questions, and that deals with what I will call, for lack of better, an endowment, Madison Public Library, Inc. In addition, then Nancy will deal with a lot of the library issues in terms of the budget that we proposed, and then the impact of the 1/3 of a mil. The library is an unusual department, if you will, in the context of operating from a financial viewpoint. It has its own corporate organization, which has been imposed by New Jersey statute. It has to operate with a balanced budget. And the only thing that we know right today is the 1/3 of a mil. And therefore, I think the material that we have provided you is the material that we've worked to try to say, okay, what will happen, you know, with that particular appropriation, and discuss with you, you know, the ramifications of that. With that, I guess we can certainly deal with, I think I call it the elephant in the room, the endowment. So with that, you know, we provided you several schedules. There was an overview memo to kind of put some context together with the endowment, a summarized balance sheet comparing 2007 and 2008. No surprise for those of you who follow the market in any effects, a rather substantial decrease in the assets available. And the second sheet, or the third sheet, I should say, is a summary of the general endowment fund activity in the period 1997 through 2008. The MPLI, the endowment, was created at that time by predecessors between the library and the endowment people, which consisted at that time the same trustees of the library. And it, I think, demonstrates, I think, in key fashion, what has happened in those years. If you have that in front of you, I'll just highlight some of those numbers. The first column is the contributions. The endowment started out with $2,443,140. That was the funds that had been under management by the library at that time, which were substantially composed of the Barton estate and what funds the library had been classifying as its own endowment. It had been gathered over years, almost since the inception of the library, the best that I could tell. I've looked at historical financial statements going back to, I won't tell you to what year, trying to figure out exactly what has happened. In the interim period, we've had roughly $700 and some thousand of additional. Most of those have been bequests. So we've had a total, quotes, capital provided, $3,227,000. In that period, we had what I call the cash income, the interest and dividends, $1,378,000. after 2008, the gains and losses realized and unrealized, a net loss of $60,000. We had our investment advisor fees in that period of $260,000, and we use and have been using several local. The current overall fund manager is John Combius of FCG, located in Chatham. I'm assuming that some of you know him. We have administrative expenses, which are largely the D&O insurance, audit fees, and some legal fees, $63,000, for a net operating income of $993,000, 994 in round numbers. Distributions to the library over that period, $1,212,000, as well as some minor distributions, for a net endowment fund balance of $2,964,528 at the end of 2008. The balance sheet, which was the second item, basically arrays that $2,964,000 into the two significant components: the restricted, $1,705,000, and the unrestricted portion, the $1,259,000. The final schedule is just a overall investment performance over the years, indicating, you know, the returns on the beginning of the year investment. And I decided that it probably made some sense to break it down for the 10-year period, 2007, and then adding 2008 by itself, because the effect is rather dramatic. Shifting over to the bold highlighted numbers, the return on average in that period was 5.76%. That was the return, the cash and net gains and losses and net of investment expenses. Provision for inflation, the CPI, 2.69. The legislation that is imposed on trustees of endowment cause us to recognize the effects of a constant dollar through inflation. And so basically, it's there as kind of an intuitive, you know, reflection if you're trying to maintain the value of the dollar. So it says we had basically 3.06% to distribute in that 10-year period. You'll see all the way over at the final column, the average for that 10-year period, 3.48. Basically, when the endowment was established, it had set a bogey of trying to contribute $100,000 a year to the operation of the library. And we have tried to manage that, notwithstanding the ups and downs in the market. The impact of 2008, you obviously yourself. The expected contribution that is reflected in the budget that's been in front of you is $120,000, which is 4% return on the overall endowment, $2,964,000. A little bit of clarification, I think, as I pointed out in the memo, the $1,705,000 is largely the Barton estate. The Barton estate was created by a former president of the library. I think he passed away in the 50s. His wife passed away. Can we invade the estate to help build the building? Legal research was done, and a rather significant legal tome was created that basically said he knew what he said, and basically, unless you want to go to the courts and deal with it, it says cash income. And cash income effectively has been provided for 40-odd years to the library.